share that with you as well. So yeah, great.
Okay,
All
let me
right.
share.
Hey,
Tamara's going to
Janelle.
pull up our presentation and we
Hey,
will do some
Caleb.
introductions along with our kind of our warm-up activity.
Yeah, sorry guys. Let me just get my screen going here.
No worries.
I have two screens, so if I'm doing like this, just know that's why.
Okay.
Are you guys
Great.
seeing the screen?
Yes, we can
Yeah.
see the slides.
Well, Caleb, you have us all to yourself today for
Yay.
right
Nice.
now. And so anything that comes up, you want us to slow down, you have any questions that pop up, anything you'd like to add, please do flag us down.
Okay.
Yes. Please
Jump
do.
in.
Okay, so we're gonna start with just a little activity, and this will just be an introduction and a little activity for us to get our brains thinking about collaborative leadership. So this is a chat chain that we are going to create on what makes collaboration work, or what about collaborative leadership, what makes it work. Sorry, guys. um, so what we'll do is we'll just introduce ourselves, and then we'll give one word that's related to collaborative leadership as part of our little chain link. So my name is Tamara Garcia. Caleb, I've seen you around, and I'm a training and development consultant here with the UNAM's Family Development Program. And the coalitions that I support are Otero, Los Alamos, Rio Doso, Bernalillo County Home Visiting Work Group, and San Miguel. And my word is going to be activate.
Do you want to pass it to someone else, Tamara?
Yeah, I'll pass it to Lindsay.
Oh, thanks. I shouldn't have opened my. Just kidding. Hi, everyone. Caleb, you know me, but I'm Lindsay Lopez, a training and development consultant with UNM Family Development Program. Really happy to serve as a coach to Caleb's coalition, and also Bernalillo County Home Visiting Work Group and PB&J. And the word that I'm thinking of is strength. And I'll pass it to Caleb.
Hi, my name is Caleb. I'm Coalition Coordinator for Voices for Early Childhood. I cover the South Valley and Greater Bernalillo County area, working with members like the Housing Visit Work Group, Catholic Charities, St. Joseph's Community, and Explora as well, and a few others. One word, synergy.
Ooh.
Synergy.
I think whoever you'd like to pass it to, but really who comes up is Veronica, because she's going to talk about how to synergize the bride.
That's a
She
good
is going
idea.
to use that word.
Okay, so I'm going to pass it to Veronica randomly.
Yes,
And
randomly.
you just stole my whole show, Caleb.
Yeah, I took your word.
That's okay. I'll pass it on to you. You'll give me lots of good feedback. So my name is Veronica Sanders, and I am the director at FDP, working with all these fabulous people. I'm so happy to be here today. And my word, can I give like a two word,
Yes,
please?
yes, I'm gonna say yes.
Okay, mine is going to be letting go.
Ooh.
That's a good
Yeah.
one.
And I will pass it to Stacy.
And Stacy, what we're doing, because I know you joined a little later, but we are creating a collaborative leadership chat chain. So we're just going to introduce ourselves and then say one word or two words that come to mind when you think of what makes collaborative leadership work.
All right. Hello. I'm Stacy. I think I know all of you guys. What do I think of when I think of collaborative leadership work? Or like, well, you don't have to, well, leaders come together and they bring their skill and their knowledge to a table, and then you put all of your ideas together and you run with everybody's idea. That's what I think it is.
Awesome. Thank you, Stacy.
Look at Lindsay's baby. How cute.
Oh, thank
Sorry,
you.
like
And
doing
Stacey,
go-
thank you for being here. It's so great to see you. I'm so glad you were able to make it.
Thanks. I know I logged in late because my daughter was having a little bit of a crisis. She adopted a baby and he's a week old. And she's just like scared with the like everything. He was choking in his formula. And so she took him out of the car seat and she goes, his arm was a little bent like this. And so she thinks he's favoring it now. So she's like ready, like in distress. And it's been emotional for him because he was exposed in utero. And so she's experiencing first time motherhood is with withdrawal symptoms in a baby, and it's the hardest thing to endure or see.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I was like, you're fine, you're fine. I was like, I'll call you back and check on you after my meeting. So sorry I was late.
It's so funny because culturally we think of babies as made of glass, but also of being little like Gumbies that flip all over and do all kinds of things too. So it's
Yeah.
like, when is it an oh poor thing. So
Yeah.
please let us know if she needs any support. And I know you got this. You're all over the resources and family services, but if we can be of any service, please let us know.
Thank you guys. Thank you.
Wow, that's amazing. Good for her.
Yeah.
I hope
Thank you.
things work out.
Me too. It's definitely different. And you know, when you and I meet for our work that we're gonna do, I definitely feel like I have a different direction for the coalition focus, and you'll be excited to hear it.
Ooh.
Yeah, I it was her idea because she sits in all my meetings too. My daughter does,
Yeah.
and so
Oh,
she was
I'm
like, "Mom,"
excited.
yeah. So
Yes,
it's
yes. I
cool,
can't wait to
but
have her check in for both of you.
yeah,
This I can't wait.
yeah. So it's
Okay, so
exciting, but
what words did we end up with, Tamara?
So we ended up with activate, strength, synergy, letting go. I put down skills, knowledge coming together.
Nice.
So yeah, so as we like move forward, I want you guys to just keep those words in the back of your mind, just to kind of guide us in today's activities.
Awesome.
So we're going to go through the objectives really fast. So our objectives are to identify personal leadership strengths. We all have them, right? So what are they? We also are going to talk about leadership principles, to break down silos, and really to promote synergy. See, Caleb, that's why we were like synergy. Recognize and model inclusive collaboration practices, competitive cultures, and talk a little bit about competitive cultures and shift towards trust-based work environments. We're also going to discuss how to engage in difficult conversations, because we know that we all have to have them at some times or others. So how can we make that go a little smoother? With a purpose, right at the end, like there's some kind of purpose for having them. And then we also are going to cover the CQI principles to support continuous learning and improvement. We're going to promote transparency and accountability and how to build trust through those. And then lastly, just demonstrate change.
Excellent. Thank you, Tamara. First, we're going to start by diving into looking at the CQI learning process. So CQI means continuous quality improvement. So in the center of improvement is always thinking about learning. How can we learn from experiences and things that we do to continuously improve upon them? One thing that I try to live by in my own life is like, how do I learn from even yesterday to wake up, refresh, restart, and try again today and try even better than I was yesterday, if possible, even if it's just a few little tweaks. So applying that principle to how we are as leaders and what we do in coalitions and how we are as people, just being in the space of being a lifelong learner, a learner of life, and continuously improving upon things that we do. this is also a way to have a framework on how do you do that. It's like I'm saying I want to improve upon things, but how do I really sit down and have a strategy on how I might do this? So another framework that is threaded into the continuous quality improvement model in this particular model that you're looking at is the plan, do, study, act model. So again, how do we plan for something? You can think of it as a coalition meeting. How do I plan for the coalition meeting? How do I actually do and hold and have the coalition meeting? And then how do I reflect upon it after the coalition meeting? And then what are my action steps from the coalition meeting? So that's a really great example of the plan, do, study, act model in marriage with this continuous quality improvement process. And so you really can start anywhere on the circle. So if you've already had your meeting or you've already had your strategic plan meeting or whatever it is, or event or whatever, and then you're thinking, gosh, I'd really like to sit down and debrief. You can start there if you want. But ideally, for the purposes of how we explain the model, we're going to start with pre-planning. So let's think about our coalition meetings. So again, we talked about that with Plan, Do, Study, Act. With CQI, we would have some pre-planning, planning our agendas, and thinking about what is it that we want to accomplish in our next meeting, and how do we really make it intentional? And then we have, maybe we have input from our previous meeting. So like we had discussion or input from our last meeting that we want to pull in as far as goals and things like that. You can also think of this as if I were having my strategic plan meeting and we were developing it, did I have some focus groups? Did I hear from families? Did I have some dialogue sessions from my members and families to really pull in what they want to hear as goals? And then if I have a leadership team, many of our coalitions are not quite there with a leadership team yet, and that's okay. And many of our coalitions have a leadership structure. So would I come together with my leadership team or maybe even other employees of the coalition, other team members, to collaborate and gather resources on how we might carry out the meeting? Then we actually have the meeting and we get to have the action and facilitate that meeting and what we've been working to plan. And then afterwards, and this is a step that we often forget, is the debrief and reflection. So do we have a time that we're actually sitting down and we are talking about what worked in whatever meeting we facilitated or event, or what it is that we had the action of, and talking about maybe also some areas of opportunity for growth for the next time we do this. So I had a family event and oh my gosh, it was so fun. It was really well attended. We had many resources and face painting and, like a bouncy house and pumpkin carving and all these fun things that were so amazing that we just have so many strengths to build on. But then we think, when we're sitting down with our team or our coalition, our leadership team, or all of it, or maybe even with us FDP coaches or ECCD liaisons, oh, we really could build upon this next time. And maybe we could incorporate this resource. And that would be really fun to invite this partner. And we think about what are areas of opportunity for growth. If we're thinking about our strategic plan, we've had our input from our community, our family members, our coalition, and so on. And then when we really sit down to think about our strategic plan and debrief that, or think about our dialogue sessions and our focus groups, we can really tease out with this model what are our areas of opportunity for growth that can mold our goals. And that's really important. So what are our goals that are coming out of that debrief process and this opportunity to reflect? We are all so busy and we have so much on our plate. So it's often that we kind of skip the debrief part and we move right to the next like action. Honestly, we skip lots of steps and then we move right to the next thing that we have, and that's okay too. So, but what if you have something like the strategic plan, like the family leadership opportunity plan, things that you really want to be intentional about, maybe a larger event that you'd like to really build upon for each year, this is a great place to slow down the process and really think about how we're pre-planning, how we carry it out, and the reflection and the learning from that. So our evaluation piece, do we have an evaluation or a survey that we gave families that attended? Do we have, maybe we conducted a training on our own. Lots of coordinators are facilitating trainings for families and their coalitions and communities. So did you have an evaluation to check to see, what were their experiences? How do I check the temperature of what's going on with what we're doing? And then you can study that based on your debrief and your evaluation and the input that you're getting from that. That's all data, and you can study it. And what might I now implement to improve upon? And in the center of that is always constantly evaluating and reflecting. And I have to also say on that piece, in the center of that is not beating ourselves up of what we didn't do, what we forgot, what we should have done. This is all for growth. So this is so we can grow and flourish. And hey, this was the first time we did it and we learned from it, and we're going to maybe try this next time. And it was awesome. Throw it at the wall and see if it sticks. That's the kind of the thing. So it's just a process of learning, never a process of shame, guilt, or beating ourselves up. So that is our CQI learning process, and married with our Plan, Do, Study, Act process. And that is something that can ground us and center us in leadership and how we conduct things within our coalition. And I will turn it over to Tamara, and we'll refer back to our CQI process throughout our training. Just kidding, it's me. Thanks. Okay, so I want to ask you, Caleb and Stacy, and actually I'll open it up to all of us. What are some strengths that we think we bring as leaders? But let's start with Stacy and Caleb first.
A strength I bring as a leader, I think I know when to listen. And I feel like a lot of times leaders I haven't really worked well under were the ones that didn't allow everybody else to have a voice. It was mostly just their voice most of the time, instead of them kind of amplifying our voice. So yeah, I think it's important that we bring that to the table, that we allow people to be a part of it as a leader, while still leading, know when to allow it to it's not about you, you're just leading it, just steering it.
That's awesome, Caleb. You covered a slide later on, so I'll just turn that one over to you.
I love this. I'm hitting all
You already came with all the answers.
I downloaded it and was reading it beforehand. I was just kidding.
Thanks, Caleb. How about you, Stacy?
I want to say a strength I bring as a leader is to try to be empathetic towards staff. It's not easy to get into a role, even if you have experience. Every job has different policies to learn, and every family is different, and so every staff is different. And so I try to be very empathetic and try to meet staff where they're at, or people where they're at. And I think that that's a good strength to have, because it brings out different strengths in other people when you're empathetic towards them, and then you can lead in that direction. So I feel like my biggest strength is like the empathy piece. And then I just feel like I'm willing to do the work with people, not like have people do the work. And I think a good leader or a strong leader is willing to work with people and not work like against people. And so I don't know, I think those are like the two biggest strengths that I bring.
That's amazing, Stacy. And you're giving away all of our secrets too.
I know.
No, that's wonderful. I love that. You're talking about emotional intelligence, which we'll touch upon. Such a key skill. And rolling up your sleeves.
Mhm.
Yeah, I love that. How about you, Tamara?
I think that I think the strength that I bring is that I'm adaptable. So when I think of a leader, one of the things that I think of is like somebody like you're on a mission to go up this hill, right? Like we always see that, like the steps and like people marching up the hill, like with the leadership. And I think that people automatically think the person at the front is the leader, right? That person carrying the flag, that's the leader. And I think that that leader has to adapt. So I'm going to lead the way because I know which way we're going, but somebody's falling behind. So let me go march back and carry their load for them for a little bit. You know, maybe I need to go to the back of the line and kind of make sure that everybody's doing good back there. And so I think it's that adaptability and just kind of willing to step in wherever I'm needed.
Awesome, Tamara. Thank you. How about you, Veronica?
Oh my gosh, you guys, you're teaching me so much. I would say that I think one of the strengths that I bring as a leader is my willingness to say, I don't know. And I think a lot
Yeah.
of times as leaders, we feel that pressure, and I'll get into that a little bit more. But I think, and it took me a while to get to that point to be able to say, because what are people going to think? I'm the leader. I should know. I should have all the answers. But I think that vulnerability to be able to say, you know what? I don't have the answer to this. Together, we can come up with a solution. And yeah, I'm the first to admit that I don't know. But I see that as a strength now.
That's
Yes.
great. That's great. And we don't have to know everything. We don't have to be the experts in everything. And especially in our coalition work, that's why we have such amazing networks within our coalition and partners that we work with and members that can be the experts in many different areas. That's awesome. Thank you. Well, we're done with our training. Everyone already has all of the skills. I would say one strength that I bring as a leader and something that I'd love to point out too is that we don't necessarily even have to have a leadership title to become leaders within our communities, within our coalitions, and within our profession. It really just takes someone with these skills to be able to step up and lead the way in many different ways, right? But one strength that I bring is creativity.
Mhm.
And creativity with thinking about who has what strengths and expertise to offer. How can we leverage that within our coalitions, within our work, and how can we build upon that? And also creativity in driving projects and ideas and planning. So there's lots of different ways that we can be creative and have fun and be innovative. And we can think about different ways to be creative in how we share decisions together, and collaborative efforts. And how do we get people at the table that their voice is not heard? What's a creative strategy for that? So there's many, many ways that we can use creativity. So as you see that us as leaders, we need to understand the strengths and assets that our coalition members bring to our coalition and our families, um, the resilience factors and the knowledge and the expertise. And we can leverage those assets and we can leverage technology in this day and age. And we need to look at data and we need to take data into consideration, qualitative and quantitative data. And absolutely, collaboration is a necessity. But we're here to break down today, and Friday in our second session, what does that even really mean? What does being a leader really mean? What does collaboration really mean? We say we do it, or we say like, yes, I'm a good team builder, or I'm a part of a team and I'd love to be a team member. But what does that really look like, right? So part of that is a huge piece is trusting the process. I know the teenagers now just say trust. Leave it at that.
More
So,
often, trust.
yeah, I'll do my homework, trust.
Oh, thank you, Lindsay, because that's a good reminder that we just sometimes have to just trust, right? We have to trust. So, moving on, we are fortunate to have our fierce leader, Veronica Sanders, here with us. And and she really is somebody that really embodies all of the qualities that we just shared. And I know she's going to be like, stop, Tamra, but really you are,
No,
right?
go
You are.
on, go on.
Right. So, you know, the emotional intelligence piece, the empathy piece, like Stacy was sharing, that self-awareness. I think, what did Caleb say? When to listen. She's a great listener. So she's gonna kind of just share with us today, like her perspective on Synergize to Thrive and how we can grow those skills and also use them to strengthen the work we do within the coalition.
Thank you, Tamara, and thank you, Lindsay, for inviting me today. I love this already, and I want to tell you that like already, like I put some slides together and stuff to just kind of talk about a couple of things, but my shift is already like going in a different direction. So Tamara, as you're going through, don't even pay attention to my notes because I'm probably going to go off on a tangent here.
I won't. Don't. And you just tell me when you're ready. Like, and I'll just tell me slide, and I'll be like, yes.
Sounds good. Well, I'm going to start us off with a story just because you all kind of inspired me to be, a little bit vulnerable. And so I'm going to take us back, on a little bit of a journey backwards to my first leadership experience that I had that I recall. And so, and kind of funny in a way, could have been a bad situation, but it turned out okay. But it made me really think about, oh my gosh, that's how I started off as a leader, and this is where I've come to today. So my first leadership experience that I have like this memory of is when I was doing my internship as a school administrator. So I had been in the classroom for 7 years, and then I got into administration, and so I had to do a year-long internship under my school principal. And I remember that at some point during my internship, my principal, had taken ill. And so I kind of had to step in a little bit more. So at that time, the way that my internship worked is I was 3 days in the classroom, 2 days working under the school principal. And so just kind of like shadowing and all of that. Well, when he took ill, I kind of had to step in full time there. And so I remember a very specific day. It was an elementary school. We had over 600 students, and we had just really, really been getting like increasingly more intentional with after school duty because we were in a new building. We had whole new procedures. We had buses going here. We had pickups over here. We were trying to hammer things out, all of those things that come into play when you're trying to start something new. And so I had worked on this duty schedule that I had just taken such pride in as part of my internship. And so I had put together this duty schedule. I was so proud of it. I thought, oh my gosh, this is really going to work, and everybody's going to be really excited about it because everybody knows their post, they know what time to be there, they know all of these different things. So lo and behold, we get out there, and so I was covering for, the administrator, not remembering that a couple of days a week I am a teacher. So, like I said, 2 days a week I was the teacher. So I was also on the duty schedule, but that particular day I was in my administrator role. And so I go outside in the afternoon, I'm out there with all of the bus students in the front of the building, and I'm looking everywhere saying, okay, I put this duty schedule together. Where is that person that's supposed to be on bus duty? You give me that schedule. I'm on the radio. I'm saying, calling to the front office staff. Can you please look at the duty schedule and see who's supposed to be out here on bus duty? Guess. It was me. And so, you think about those times, and I got to tell you, I'm glad that you said that, Lindsay, about we often beat ourselves up. And so we have to remember, we have to step into that role of remembering, you know what? We're learners as leaders. That never stops. And so, getting past it and everything. And thank goodness I had a lovely staff that was very understanding. They knew that I was taking on a whole lot of different things. And so they all just kind of laughed about it. And thank goodness I was there. Technically, I was there, you know, on duty. But just thinking about how we need to not put so much pressure on ourselves as leaders. And so I'm going to take you into this video. I love, love, love this video. I don't know if any of you have seen it, but it's a wonderful video to help us think for a minute and reflect on the type of leader that maybe we were or maybe are, and maybe you'll have an opportunity, or you'll feel a little bit vulnerable afterwards to kind of share what might resonate with you after watching this video. So go for it, Tamara.
Can you hear it?
No.
Nothing.
You might, I was gonna say, you might have to go out and then reopen it with sound.
You're on mute, Tamara. No problem, though. Take your time.
Okay, guys, I think I got it.
Great.
Awesome.
Thanks.
Can you see it?
See it?
Yes.
Okay. Can you hear it?
Perfect.
The
Yes.
saying, give a man a fish and you feed him for a day, teach a man to fish and you feed him for a lifetime, I truly believe relates to leadership. As a leader, do you ever find that an awful lot of your day is answering people's questions and solving people's problems, even though actually you have a suspicion they probably could do that themselves? And as leaders, we do have experience and we do have knowledge that is absolutely fine to share with others in the right situation. However, are we really helping people? So in fact, when we do give advice and share our experiences, are we in fact feeding them just for the day, so they will come back another day? What we want to do, of course, is to teach them to fish. But by just feeding them, we're also probably feeding something in ourselves. I know that I have a real need for recognition and also to be needed. And that helps me in an awful lot of aspects of my life. But in leadership and coaching, it can be a real hindrance. When somebody asks me for my advice, I absolutely love that. I'm helping them, aren't I? But in essence, I'm really just truly filling a need in myself. So when I came across really what coaching was all about, which is giving somebody else the capacity to solve their own problems by getting them to explore their own situation, that really did enlighten me as to what we can do for other people. So rather than feeding me, it's all about that person. I came across a story a number of years ago which really helps me relate and think about what I'm doing to help other people. And that's the story of a man who came across a butterfly cocoon. The man came across this cocoon and saw the small hole and the butterfly struggling to get through this small hole. And he was absolutely fascinated with this butterfly's struggle. And as he watched it, he was curious as to how the butterfly was going to manage to get through this minute hole. He went away, and a few hours later he came back, and the butterfly was still trying to struggle through the hole. He watched, thinking, what could he do to help? He felt for the butterfly and wanted to do something. But again, he went away, hoping that when he returned, that the butterfly would have flown away. So when he did return, to his dismay, the butterfly was still trying to struggle through the hole and looked like it was almost giving up. And he could not hold himself back. So he wanted to help the butterfly so much, he took a pair of scissors and he cut through the cocoon. And out came the butterfly with ease. But to his absolute horror, instead of the butterfly that he expected, the butterfly had an engorged body and withered wings. Because the man, in his haste to help, did not realise that the struggle for the butterfly to get through the hole in the cocoon actually serves to force the fluid from its body into its wings, so it can be fully formed to fly as a butterfly should. So that story stays with me and helps remind me of when I'm leading and coaching as to what I can do in service for other people. So I challenge you as leaders before you dive in and give advice is to think about how much pleasure you get from solving problems, and instead give the greatest gift of giving that other person the pleasure of solving their own problem. By asking great questions, getting them to explore their situation, and more importantly, it's about patience. Waiting whilst, in fact, the person probably struggles to their own solution. Because great leaders are surrounded by beautiful butterflies.
Thank you, Tamara. So I don't know if you guys love that video as much as I do, but I just think it's just such a good message about self-reflection and thinking about what kind of leader you are, why you're that kind of leader, like what do you need as a leader? And then also thinking to yourself about what feels right as a leader. And so I'll share with you a little bit of, kind of my leadership journey and where things kind of started for me when I first started leadership. But I want to ask you all first, Caleb, what resonated with you on that?
Well, I mean, for me, personally, I was a caregiver for a long time, and it was a lot of times in facilities like they have, where they needed a place to go to be able to do what the butterfly did, and like not and have an understanding staff that didn't jump in all the time to do everything for them, and to like set up, so like let them socialize on their own, let them solve problems on their own and figure things out on their own, instead of constantly doing what a lot of people want to do is they feel sorry and they want to nurture, they want to help right away. Is let me get that for you, let me help you with that, let me give that to you. And it's great, but you see the individuals who had that done for them their entire lives, and the individuals have been allowed to pursue that, and you saw the differences in their like strengths and weaknesses, and how it was frustrating for the person. Even though they were getting everything they needed, they weren't ever allowed to do it for themselves, and it frustrated them, and they didn't even necessarily know why they were frustrated, and we didn't know why they were frustrated sometimes. And a lot of skilled experienced therapists that I was around have been doing it for so long, had seen these long patterns of what happens when people aren't given choices. Like even though you're helping them, you're kind of taking away their choice in a way, especially for the leader, and they're looking at you as like, well, if they said it, I better do it that way. Like if you're jumping in and saying, well, why don't you try it this way? They're like, well, I gotta do it the way Caleb said, because he's the one in charge and he told me that's the way I should try and do it. I've been susceptible to that myself. I have my boss come in, say things, I'm like, I better just drop what I'm doing and just go with what they said. And then I end up later down the line not really liking what I'm doing and frustrated, and not really understanding what's going on, until I have to really dissect it and go back and say, like, well, this started when I was told that I was doing it, that I had a suggestion for my leader to do it a different way. And that's when I really started getting aggravated with this process, So it resonates with me, not only my personal experience as a follower, but also as a leader trying to lead someone through their day, as a caregiver, just doing simple things like washing their hands, going to the bathroom or eating and stuff like that. And just, I don't know, it resonates a lot with the stuff I've done, and how it really does play a big part in the kind of like synergy we've been talking about. Like you don't have that when you start giving them all the answers and giving them all the solutions and all the tools and what to do,
Exactly. Thank you, Caleb. And that is exactly where I was going to come around on this is, when I go back to my very first, leadership responsibility, leadership role, the concept or the perception of leadership has evolved quite a bit. I remember, thinking of a leader as, well, this is the person, this is the, be all end all, this is whatever this person says, this is what we have to follow. And, there's still that idea, but you think about the pressure and the anxiety that probably builds on leaders. And I think back to, when I, like I mentioned, my first leadership position, and thinking, okay, I'm the leader here. Everybody expects me to do certain things. They expect me to have all the answers. They expect me to make the decisions. They expect me, and it's all going to fall on my shoulders. And my supervisors are looking at me as, well, what did you do? And that kind of thing. And so I'm so grateful for the shift, because let me tell you, I mean, I blame a lot of my white hair today on that type of leadership style. When I first started, that's, and whether it was real from other people or just my own perception of what leadership should be and what that meant, I'm just so happy to see how things have evolved. And so just, just a little question to put out there. When we think about situations in our coalitions, whether it's facilitating a meeting, planning an event, troubleshooting or challenging situation, or even just holding a conversation with others, what are the characteristics we bring to the table that have made things more productive? And so I go back to the chain that we did at the beginning here and the different words that you thought of as, what is a collaborative leader? And, I mentioned letting go, and not only letting go of responsibility so that others can contribute, but letting go of that pressure that I was putting on myself. So it's a whole idea here about, how important it is to make sure that others are involved in that. And we're always talking about growing our own leaders. We talk to our children about that and everything. And so for us as leaders, it's modeling that and thinking about how much better it feels when everybody is involved in the decision-making process, when everybody's involved and active in communication and, trying to, troubleshoot a challenging situation. And so just being able to step into that. And I think all of us, in this day and age, we recognize how important that is to bring people in and to make them part of leadership. There you go. Thank you. And so just again, just looking at, I have these little this or that, what looks better to you? The ideas on the left-hand side here or on the right-hand side, when we think about leaders that we've worked with, which are the ones that we work better with. And when we take on these different characteristics, if you look over here on the left, sharing decision-making power, encouraging open dialogue, building consensus, listening actively, that's, I know, something that, everybody's mentioned today, empowering others, and promoting team success. So much easier on the leader when you're that type of leader, when you're sharing responsibilities, when you're involving everybody in the process. And then it brings people back because they know I'm not just going to this meeting or going to this event and being told, this is what we're doing, this is how we're going to do it. I have a voice. I can contribute to this. I can give my ideas and suggestions. And you as the leader don't have to have all of the answers. And, just very, very different from those leaders that some of us might remember. Me, for instance, who may have started off as being one of these types of leaders because I had that perception that, I have to have all the answers. I need to make all of the decisions. And so I can't tell you how wonderful it is to be able to be this collaborative type leader instead, and bring everybody in and share responsibility and share ideas. And so if you'll switch to the next slide, Tamara. And so I'll wrap up with this and pass it back to these lovely ladies. But just thinking about modern leadership styles at a glance. And so we want to think about empowering others. And how do we do that? We lead as a coach. We give other people responsibilities. We ask people to, help make decisions. We share the leadership responsibilities. We motivate each other. We work as a team. And so we lead as a supporter. A lot of times I say, you know what, very recently I've given some responsibilities to our team to take on, and I feel kind of bad in a way. And I think, oh gosh, are they going to think, well, this is your job. You're the director. But you know what? They have embraced it and they've taken it on. And I tell them, you know what? I am your biggest cheerleader. You've got this. And they do. And it's absolutely amazing. And so oftentimes, taking on that role is, you know what? I don't have to do everything. I can lead by supporting my team and encouraging them and helping them learn. And then, of course, being an inspiration. So leading as a motivator, again, like, encouraging them, being there for support and giving good feedback, and modeling how to receive that feedback. But again, just being there to encourage. So just a couple of thoughts. And so leading into the rest of the session today and into Friday, thinking about how much better it is to be a collaborative leader for everybody, not just the leader, but everybody involved. So thank you.
Thank you
Thank you.
so much, Veronica. That was awesome. I
Yeah.
love that video.
Mhm.
Just really great information there. And I've seen it before, but every time I watch it, it feels like I pick up something different from it. I love that. Great.
Dude, thanks.
Thank you. Collaboration. What does it really look like? What does it really mean? How do we do these things? We talk about the buzzwords: collaboration, diversity, communication, teamwork, and the things that we think goes along with collaboration, but what does it really look like? So of course, leaders prioritize diversity, equity, and inclusion. Thinking about that language and using that, that's part of one of our goals of this series, is to have shared language that we all use when we talk about leadership and collaboration. So thinking about that shared language piece, when we talk about diversity, equity, inclusion, and how those are words that are now also buzzwords and activating in a sense, because we don't know kind of how to navigate these words in our current climate sometimes. And that's something that we can lean into with our early childhood principles and many even healthcare philosophies and principles of cultural competency. So understanding our cultures and understanding the needs of our communities, and always bringing forth the lens of diversity, equity, and inclusion through cultural competency. And bringing those principles into our everyday shared decision making. This is a way to create a democratic and non-hierarchical way of making decisions, and also communication. How do I communicate and not come to you as the expert, but rather we're in partnership, in relationship, and we're here to learn together. And it's not about just who's at the table, which they are super important, but also it's about elevating the unheard voices. So exactly what Veronica was also sharing about empowering and elevating those voices. And Caleb mentioned that too. And thinking about who does need to be at the table that's not here right now, and how can we get them to the table? How can we elevate their voice? How decisions are made? Do we have policies on how we vote? Do we have structure or strategy on how decisions are made? Because as we see, sometimes we throw out decisions to be made and we say, I want to hear from you, I want to hear your feedback. But often we don't hear feedback. And so how do we have structures to support decision making? Is it the way we ask an open-ended question as we facilitate a meeting? Is it in a survey? Is it a voting process? So what are those structures to support decision making? Sometimes I know I throw out a question to people and I'm like, I really want to hear from you, and it's crickets. So how can I have those strategies to engage people in the decision making process? And are they a part of making the decision on how to make the decisions? Are we making decisions for us, about us, without us? How does communication flow? How do we remind people of meetings? How do we engage in communicating resources to our coalition and to our families? What are those systems and structures and strategies we use for communication flowing as well? And how is the power dynamic shared? Is it driven by one person? Is it driven by a couple of people? Is it driven by leadership? Is it driven, when we're talking about our coalitions, is it driven by our coalition and members and families and community? So how do we share that power dynamic? How do we talk about that power dynamic? The language we use is really important. And do we create and foster a culture of partnership and relationship versus a culture of hierarchy? So thinking about those systems that can be supportive to the power dynamic that's shared as well. This is a great one too. Many of our systems that we live and thrive in or survive in, have been created, and structures have been created to support a culture of competition, unfortunately. And what do I mean by that? These are our systems that have been created that are driven by numbers. Numbers are wonderful. That's our qualitative data. We need numbers in our lives. But sometimes, whether say it's an early childhood education program or a home visiting program or early intervention program, we're basing our success sometimes on, say, enrollment of families or kiddos, which turns into numbers. And we don't always think about the quality of the service, but rather the number. And, working as a former Head Start person, our funding for the following year and awards overall were based on one of those key factors of enrollment. So systems have been created, and we understand why that system exists. If you're not getting the enrollment, we shouldn't give you the extra money to do what we don't know, right? So those systems of accountability have been set up and encouraging us to bring these good high quality services to all of the families in our community and as many families as possible, but yet sometimes we get bogged down by the numbers, right? And so that creates a culture of competition. How many people do we have coming to our coalition meetings? How many people do we have enrolled in our early childhood programs? How many people how many kids are benefiting from this or that? So thinking about how these systems sometimes, unfortunately, create a culture of competition, right? So we need families in my program because I need to secure the future of our program, of the jobs here and what we're already the families that we're already servicing. And so it's a necessary part of the job, but also can support in the culture of competition. And we think about our coalitions, and we have 4 in Bernalillo County. So, oh, you're having 60 people come to your meeting and I'm having 10. Can I borrow some of your members? Can I, or how can I get those people to come to my meetings? And of course, I know none of you do that, but how do we live with a necessary kind of focus of numbers and data and whatnot, and live in those systems that do create competition sometimes, unfortunately, but also break down those barriers and break down the culture of competition and move towards more of a culture of collaboration and trust. So when we think about our coalitions, we can consider allowing members and families to work how and when they perform best, especially when it comes to volunteer work. So we can focus on assets that a family or a member brings to our coalition, and we can really kind of activate that asset and build upon that. So maybe we have a family member that's a really good public speaker and a really good advocate, and we are really elevating that advocacy voice. And so maybe they're really involved in our civic engagement piece of our coalition. And maybe they can only meet on the evenings because they have a daytime job or weekends. So that's when I might connect with that family, or that's when we maybe structure our civic engagement meetings around that schedule because we want to elevate that particular volunteer, right? And so we're not competing with anyone else. We're elevating and activating what's already existing in our coalition. Build on strengths, focus on what we can bring. We can have trust and flexible work models for retention. So that's key members that might be a part of our coalition, leadership and families and so on, and volunteers that really help us share the workload, and also folks that we may hire if our coalitions grow to that capacity. And questioning, and this will be brought up a few times ourselves, are we really doing what we say we are doing? So when we say we're a part of a team, or we say we make decisions as a team, when we say we're collaborating, when we say we're partnering with other programs, and we're and really fostering that collaboration, are we really doing that? I invite you to sometimes even check in on your mission and vision, or policies and procedures that you may develop at some point or may already have, and say to yourself, like, are we really doing what we say we are doing? Are we really doing that? We write about family engagement, we write about collaboration, we write about this or that, and sometimes we focus on the numbers of things we attend, or the numbers that come to our meetings or come to our events, but are we really making this intentional and high quality? So we live in this culture of competition that focuses on numbers sometimes with reason. It has to, right? For accountability, we have to have checks and balances. But that has created this perpetual cycle of competition. So how do we really think about breaking down those walls? How do we really think about what collaboration means? And that is inclusion. Are we leading from within, behind, what Tamara was talking about a little bit earlier? Are we trusting? And are we really remembering that we're here for children and families? So sometimes the competition comes into play, and we can remind ourselves, especially in difficult conversations, that we are here for children and families. And as long as we're doing right by children and families, all of it will work out. We will all get the numbers. We will all be able to provide the services we need. So an example of that is if I were, working at the Early Childhood Education Center and we really needed enrollment, and I know this family coming in really needed this service that's better served somewhere else. Do I hold on to that family because I really need the enrollment, or do I refer them to a program that actually will better serve them? And then they can make the choice. Do they want to continue with our program, or do they want to learn more about that program or engage in that program? Because I promise you, there are enough families around, there are enough members for our coalitions. And if we really focus on breaking down those walls and barriers of competition, we will all be just fine, and we'll remember we're here for the children and families and what's best for them. So I mentioned a little teaser, having difficult conversations. Successful leaders articulate clear mission and visions that align with social, environmental, or human-centered values, maybe social justice values. We can motivate teams beyond the numbers, right? So sometimes, though, that involves having difficult conversations or with our partners and those in our community support services and services similar to ours. And so Kayla is going to talk to us today about normalizing conflict. It's okay to have professional disagreements and conflict, because that will break down the barrier of competition and that will create the culture of collaboration, because sometimes we have to disagree to find compromise and work together and partner together. And that is absolutely okay. It might not feel good, but we can normalize conflict. And by addressing the hard and awkward things, we actually will do the hard work that needs to be done. So how do you have conversations like this? I invite you to lean into reflective practice and reflective practice kind of frameworks and pieces of that we'll talk about throughout our training. But for now, I'm going to turn it over to Kayla. Welcoming Kayla as one of our amazing coordinators of our coalitions, because we are here to learn from each other. So Kayla, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Sounds good. Hi, everybody. Thanks for having me today. As Lindsay mentioned, I am the coordinator for the Community Partnership for Children down here in Grant County, New Mexico. So I'm here to kind of just have some discussion about a few agreements, disagreements, conversations, whatever you want to call it, that have really formed partnerships that we've created. And really just the importance of those collaborations and partnerships, whether they work out or not. So over the past 18 years, we've been, of course, dedicated to supporting early childhood, families, especially those here in our rural community, which some of you may know that can be a little bit more difficult being in a rural area, trying to create these partnerships, but it can be done. And so we are really looking forward to creating more partnerships, expanding our network, and building these collaborations. So a collaboration and partnership that we have been involved in, you could change the slide tomorrow. In 2022, we actually launched the KidSpace program, which is the, sorry, let me think of it, KidSpace School Age Program. So it's an out-of-school time program. And it was really in response to concerns that were raised by our family leadership team. So families were struggling to find enriching childcare for their children due to the school district releasing their new calendar, and it included half days on Wednesdays and then extended breaks and summer closures as all schools do. And so we went ahead and facilitated collaboration. So we empowered these parents to voice their concerns directly to the superintendent. And then we engaged the town to fund a pilot program for this out of school time. So we wanted to partner then with the university, which is the Early Childhood Center of Excellence here in Grant County. And we wanted them to provide the curriculum, knowing that they were the champions of that. And so coordinating all of these different programs. And then we also were able to coordinate transportation. And so the transportation that actually the school utilizes was able to then drop off at our new site, which was super exciting. The food program through the school was able to provide snacks. And then we also included our food hub to support that as well. This partnership brought together several large entities, those that are really, busy. Everybody has so much work to do these days. And so looking at the big picture of who all was involved, we had the town of Silver City, our local school district, the university, and then local governments and the community, not the community, but the transportation company that we have here locally, and then our food bank. And so together they really created this really comprehensive after school program, and it's been servicing 45 children consistently. I think during the school year it's a little less, but really just making sure these children had a place to go year round. And all of this was really with the intention that the town would cover the cost for it as a pilot, and then later we'd be moved into the new recreation center that they just built, and from there be able to transition services. So as we moved into the KidSpace program and it evolved, we underwent some significant transitions in the location. So originally it was housed within the local school buildings. Then it had to be relocated on site at the university due to some renovations that had to take place. But the program remained on the campus and continued to thrive. So we didn't put it back at the schools. We were kind of waiting for this new rec center to come up. And really the substantial financial support that the town gave was extreme. It was hundreds of thousands of dollars that they were able to support it with. This funding really supplemented the revenue that was generated through the state. And so some of those families that couldn't afford or couldn't qualify for subsidy payments, the town was covering the cost for them to attend. So it was a really good partnership. I think this approach really allowed all children to benefit, and really bringing those from different backgrounds, income levels, all the situations that families face. And so really the funding that the town was providing was meant to be temporary. And so when we created this pilot, it was always meant to do so, to come to a point where they'd be able to hand it over at the end. And so as the construction progressed, the timeline for the transition began, and then we began to accelerate shifting over. And really, we ran into some issues with the funding structure. And so it kind of took a shift in the partnership. If you want to move forward to the next slide. Actually, one more. I skipped ahead of you. I'm sorry. So the partnerships that we built through CPC really make all the work we do meaningful. And so while our interest and our commitment has driven us to do this, really it's the passion behind everything and the relationships that we really try to nurture and sustain, so that way we can continue to partner and create these different things. So we made really the most of our time by holding micro meetings. So I've always kind of held separate meetings in between our committee meetings. That way we were able to focus our conversation when we did come together collaboratively. As I mentioned, all of these individuals involved are really busy and they have so many things on their plate. So we wanted to make best use of it. And during our most recent committee meeting, it was confirmed that the town wasn't going to be able to support the university site. And it was a discussion that we had back in April. They were going to go ahead and fund it through the summer, possibly the fall into the next spring. And then the recreation center would be built and it would continue over there as well. Well, in a follow-up meeting that I had with the town, we were going to add in some amounts from the university that had been left out. And the town manager informed me that he wouldn't be able to support both sites. And so I was stuck trying to figure out what that was going to look like as a partnership, how I was going to inform them. And so I asked the town manager to create a memo to the partnership that I could send out right away so that we could get that information out. And then it was back to the drawing board for the agreement to kind of figure out where we were headed then. So although the news was a shock, it wasn't really entirely unexpected. We knew it was going to come, just not at this moment. And so the timing was really challenging for the university because they were in the middle of hosting their parent orientation when I received the information. And so I immediately returned to my office after having this micro meeting with the town manager and let him know the two individuals from the university, the director and the director in training. And I let them know via text and email kind of what was happening and where we were headed. I also sent out the memo to the committee. And so I was trying to keep everybody informed. But despite my efforts of doing so, I wasn't able to receive communication until the following day. And so everything kind of sat still. You can go ahead and move to the next slide. Once I received a call from the director, she was the director of the university for that program. She was understandably upset, and she began to mention how she was receiving phone calls from parents and they were concerned about the university closing down their program and all these things. And her first question to me was, who told the parents? And so in response, I took a deep breath. I calmly explained to them that the information came from the town during our meeting and that I acted quickly to notify them, making sure all stakeholders were involved as well. And then via text and email. So I didn't just do one or the other. I went and did both. And so I did my due diligence to really get that information to them. And then I did send out the formal memo that the town manager had created. And so I reassured her that I didn't give the information out. And it wasn't the intention to catch anyone off guard because she felt like she was targeted, but rather it was to ensure transparency and timely communication. So I really acknowledge the difficulty of the timing, express my commitment to the partnership and what we've been working on. And then also the importance of really focusing on families. And that was the whole goal here. It wasn't ever anybody's intention to do anything negative toward that relationship. I did let her know that I was going to work on obtaining some support for transportation costs, anything that I could in the meantime between meetings, just to kind of secure some funding or support for them. I was going to try and accomplish that. And so during the conversation, she also mentioned that her primary requirement for the agreement that we were all involved in was to include the schools, and that it was really necessary for her to complete her scope of work that she had a grant for. And in response, I respectfully reminded her of the importance of the fact that the town had supported this pilot over the past few years and really how broad the collaboration was. It wasn't just the university and the town. It involved so many other partners that were beneficial. and important. And so I emphasize really that it enabled key services to take place, like transportation between school sites to their program, the food being able to be transported to her program, just all these things that were so positive, and how detrimental it would be if we dissolved it. And so I did encourage her to consider just the full impact of the collaboration, really just highlighting how each partner contributed, creating more of an inclusive and effective support system for families. And then, of course, I let her know that I was going to update the MOU and then send it out for signature once we kind of discovered where we were headed. And then when we met the next time, that we would review that and have a better idea of where we were headed in the future. So the committee was promptly informed about the decision that the town had made. I did ensure that there was transparency and clarity in the response. And so we scheduled our meeting, hoping that everybody would review the agreement and really make a decision at the next meeting on what that was going to look like. And so as the meeting began, there were several unexpected changes in leadership that had happened. And so it really added complexity to this conversation we were about to have. The director in training at the university was attending the meeting, and then the town manager sent his assistant manager, who is going to be in place in January, to this meeting. And so it made it a little bit difficult because we didn't have all the right players at the table to make all these decisions. It did really make for an interesting meeting. It did require flexibility and really like clear communication. And so I kind of gave an overview of what was happening, where we were at, why we were here, all that type of thing. Well, during the meeting, the director in training at the university expressed her concern with the current MOU and how it didn't actually reflect the needs of the partnership. And so she suggested that some adjustments were made to really better the alignment of the document and keep it together for the university's expectations and what they had. So before really speaking or making a decision, I took a deep breath, kind of brought myself out of the meeting while I was in it. And I acknowledged her concerns and really just the lack of communication from her team, that they didn't really coach her and train her on where she was going, what information she needed to present, all those things. And so it really made it difficult, I think, to take a step back in that moment, but it was very beneficial. And so in order to clarify roles and responsibilities, I asked whether if she had the authority to make decisions, if she felt comfortable making these decisions, because that's exactly what we were here to do. We were trying to update this agreement and really move forward with the partnership and figure things out. Well, she responded that she didn't. And so at that point, I just reminded the committee, like, the value of everybody's time and how important having all these partners is at the table, that really these meetings are meant for those that can make decisions to be a part of it. And so I think at that point, everyone kind of understood what we were there for, why we were doing it. And it was definitely a difficult situation to navigate. The committee expressed their interest in scheduling a follow-up session right away with the right partners at the table, so we could actually get this agreement done. And I did appreciate their willingness to actually move forward and quickly, but I was going to be out the next week. And so I let them know that I wasn't going to be available. I set my boundaries, told them that we can either meet today, right after this, or during, however, and bring those people, or we can do it tomorrow. But other than that, there's no time that I have to be able to do that. And so it really was trying to ensure that there wasn't any momentum lost. We really wanted to continue to work toward a resolution and figure out what was going to happen. And so I went ahead and closed the meeting, and then I sent out a meeting invite and I scheduled it for the following day. You can move forward with the slide. And so during that next meeting, I made space for each partner to share updates and really what their ideas were on future collaboration and what that was going to look like. But before doing so, I did ask that I met with the university director and her assistant and really just let them know how important it was to have them at the table, but also how important it is to be respectful when we're at the meetings that we're at, and to acknowledge those that are at the table and how much work they've put into the partnership. And so I really didn't let the assistant director or director in training, the way she treated me go unnoticed. And so I also elaborated on it a little bit during the meeting, but I really wanted them to all kind of talk about what their role was, how they envisioned it, and where we were headed. So the school district expressed that they weren't able to get any kind of funding for transportation costs, and they were very apologetic, acknowledging how important it was. The Southwest Council of Governments offered to explore potential funding for the university and really look for ways to continue the program. But when it came to the university, the emotions were still pretty high. The team shared that they felt blindsided by the developments and they were struggling to move past those feelings. You can really feel the tension in the air. And as the conversation progressed, there was really a collective sense that the partnership was kind of coming to an end. It was like a mourning point for me, because I could see that the partnership that we worked so hard to create was kind of dissolving. And so I'm not really someone who shows emotion, but in that moment, I was really grieving what I had created. It took so long to create. And really, if it hadn't been for my passion and love for the field and families, I don't think that I would have felt that way. But really, it was just something that I couldn't get past. And so I spoke up and shared, really just from my heart, how impactful the partnership has been, not only locally, but as a model for the state, and just highlighted how the town invested so much money. The schools housed the program, they were invested, easing the burden for transportation, and then how the program of transportation stepped up, how the food hub was able to provide food, snacks, and then really how the university provided high quality care and oversight, and just the appreciation of the partnership. And so, I included too that it's really been an example of what is possible when community members can come together and move out of silos and support one another. And so I did urge everyone to just be reflective on that. And before making any final decisions, I wanted them to take that into consideration. And so as the meeting continued, one of the partners suggested, you can go for it too, that the new rec center take over care for the school age program while the university did their role in the early childhood department, focusing solely on the younger children. And I did take a minute to clarify that out of school time care falls under the early childhood department. And it's for a reason, to provide that proper oversight, maintain high quality childcare for these programs. And then really just the structure of it is designed to protect integrity and consistency across all age groups. And so I took a minute to really kind of advocate and train and coach those that just don't know the whole picture of everything. And toward the end of the meeting, the director of the university expressed that it was kind of best for the university to step away from the partnership entirely and just give it back to the town. And so after making that statement, she left, and it was clear that the emotions were still pretty high. I followed up with the new director, the one in training, and I just acknowledged the intensity of the situation and how important moving forward thoughtfully was going to be. And so I let her know once I returned from my vacation, I would come back and really kind of just talk about what that's going to look like moving forward, hoping that they would have some time to kind of reconsider and think about what was going to happen. After the meeting, I stayed behind with the assistant town manager, and I just shared a reflection really of the partnership. And I encouraged her to consider to reach out to the university director and clear the air, make amends if needed. I know partnerships are really important. And so I didn't want this to be the end of their relationship. And so I kind of just asked her to create, that personal relationship with her on the other side of things. And I've attempted to remain in communication and inform everybody kind of what's happening, where we're at. I followed up and just kept the lines of communication open in case anybody needed to talk. And we have another meeting scheduled today, actually. And so we're going to reconnect and talk about next steps. And really, my hope is that we can have some clarity, maybe renew our relationship and the commitment that we have for families and children, and be able to continue servicing all of them as one partnership. So that was kind of the situation all in a nutshell. Do you guys have any questions for me? Comments?
No,
I
that was
just
good
want to
stuff.
say that I think it's amazing how you advocated for what you needed to, given the circumstances, and it seemed like you remained very professional, calm, and just handled it very appropriately and for the best outcome that could be. But I just like the way you shared like the process, and really admired how you went and advocated. And it takes a strong leader to go and advocate for something. So I just want to say thank you for sharing your story. It gives like insight that there are more than just one person that wants something good for our community. And we're in different communities, but it's still our community as a whole. And so I just wanted to say that that was awesome, and thank you for sharing.
Yeah, of
Okay.
course. Thank you.
Kayla, sorry.
Mhm. Yeah, it was an interesting conversation, and I feel like we all are going to face it at some point in time. There's always those, hard conversations to have, but it's so important to really voice how you feel and really advocate for families, because that's what we're here for. And I think sometimes some of the programs or centers, whoever you're in partnership with, they kind of have their individual needs in front. And so it's sometimes hard for them to see the whole picture. And so I think as coalitions, it's nice for us to be that neutral ground and be able to really bring people back to the fact that we all are trying to get to the same place. We all want to serve families in an appropriate way. And so how can we do that together and really lighten the load of one another and just enhance what we're all doing? So yeah.
Wow, Kayla, thank you so much. Any other questions or comments for Kayla? We really appreciate. Oh, go ahead, Veronica.
I'm
Yeah.
sorry, I was just gonna say, Kayla, you're an inspiration. So keep
Yes.
doing what you're doing. And just, your story today is just very motivating and encouraging, to other leaders. So thank you. I appreciate it. You inspired me.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate you guys.
Oh,
And if
Kayla,
you
we
ever have
really
questions,
appreciate
So
your
much,
time.
Kayla. Your
Yeah.
story it needs to be shared, especially like I know Caleb and Stacy are they're starting out, and I know in the future like they might come across things like this. So thank you. And I think you're a great example of an amazing coalition leader, coordinator.
I appreciate that.
Thank you so much for your time today, Kayla. I know we're all so super busy too, and just the opportunity to learn from each other. And we need to definitely create more spaces for coordinators to share about the work with each other. And I appreciate you leading that charge as well. Thank you, Kayla, so much.
Yeah,
Just to
definitely.
oh, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, if you guys have any questions or something comes up, you're more than welcome to reach out to me and I can support you in any way that I can. I may have gone through it already or I'm coming up on it. And so I don't mind helping navigate those conversations or stuff with you guys.
Awesome. Thank you, Kayla. And isn't it unfortunate that, yes, having difficult conversations is part of the job? I wish it wasn't. I wish it was all very easy, but I really see that that's when the hard work gets moving. It may not even get accomplished or solved right away, but it really gets going. And we make progress towards. So a couple of things that I thought were wonderful strategies that she shared with having that difficult conversation. And sometimes we can refer to the difficult conversation as having a courageous conversation, and creating courage and courageous spaces, or a crucial or critical conversation, or it's all of it, right? And sometimes we tend to avoid the awkward and the hard stuff. It's just really within our nature. But Kayla was a great model in how we ground ourselves to have conversations like this, how we can lean into the awkwardness, reflection, and adding that CQI process of how do we really get this done? How do I plan for that? She mentioned the micro meetings, which I thought was a really great strategy for planning, and getting some progress going when they were working on the collaborative efforts, and really maximizing the time spent together and making that efficient, because we all have so many meetings to attend and we all have so many things to do. So how do we capitalize on that? She used perspective taking, really understanding where each partner was coming from. And she was prepared. She was prepared for the tough conversations, but also prepared for the meetings and prepared with what they were planning on working together. She expressed some boundaries. Sometimes boundaries are really hard for us to set in place. I know they are for me sometimes. And so she set some boundaries in place, especially regarding this difficult conversation. I think something too is that stood out to me too was she never stepped into negative intent. Like, well, this person's just doing this to hurt this effort or to hurt me directly or hurt someone else, but always thinking about positive intent and that force of coming back to why are we here, the children and families. And that's our positive intent. And so she also did a great job of modeling not taking things too personal. It's the work and we need to get the job done. So how do we do that together instead of they're personally attacking me? And that also plays into positive intent and taking that kind of stance on things. People are here for the right intentions. We may be kind of coming to some bumps in the road, but we all are really here for the good of the community and the right intentions. And she circled back. That's a strategy too. She came back to those folks that she needed to connect with and talk to. And it was all done in relationship and relationship building. And so there were some new members within the city and then also the university. So how do I also create some relationship with those partners too? And she mentioned inclusivity. This was an inclusive model for her families, but how do we include again those voices at the table that we need to have there? Transparency, being transparent and not really see you later, Kayla. Thank you so much. I'm just going to continue to brag on you for a minute. But being transparent with all that was going on with the process too. And she stepped into some advocacy skills and remembering that voice, and she stayed on the path even though it got hurt or it got a little bumpy, and things that we collaborate on may or may not work, or they may be difficult to get going, right? But if we stay on the path, we can build strong relationships and strong partnerships, and we can maybe make progress or make it work. And just again, that reminder to them that she gave, why are we here? The children and families. So those are some really great strategies that I pulled out from her story. Gosh, it's hard to have those conversations, but really I love that she's continuing to stay on the path. And it may look a little different than they originally planned, but I'll be excited to see what happens in her community moving forward. So with that, we are going to honor your time and end today there. And we really appreciate everyone attending today, and our guest speakers, Veronica and Kayla, are just so amazing and awesome. And our awesome coordinators, we can't thank you enough for the work that you do each and every day to support our children and families. And I'll hand it over to Tamara if she has any announcements. And if not, we'll see you on Friday. Go ahead, Tamara.
No announcements. You covered it, Lindsay, but thank you, Caleb. We're so happy that you attended, and we hope to see you on Friday as well.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
a couple of homework assignments though.
Yeah, oh, Caleb. Yeah, we'll give you some.
So if you're attending on Friday, we would love for you to think of a song that inspires your leadership skills. And also, if you could, bring your early childhood leadership toolkit to our next session. So that big old thick binder that UNM FDP provided. I'm sure Sam gave you one.
Yeah, I got that on here.
Yes.
That's good.
Ooh, thanks for the example.
Yeah, I've got that on here.
Wonderful. So we'll remind everyone in the emails as well to think of a song and bring their toolkit. We're going to do a little bit of exploration, and